Okay, good, we're rolling now. My battery died when I was doing the last part of this that I was trying to do. Anyway, I'm doing I'm taking the clutch driver out and I'm replacing it. Now, the clutch driver, I'm going to grab my replacement one here, it's a used one, is this part here. And it's got these two holes here and they're tapped to half 13. And them two holes are what you pull it out by. What you do is you get yourself some bolts after you clean up the threads, because I guarantee your threads are going to be pretty dirty. So you put one of your bolts, you get it started and put in there. You want to get a good bit of that threads in there, because this is a tough pull, is what I've come across. So you get one of them in there, but you can't use a jaw puller. You got to use a puller kind of like this to get around on them bolts. You can make something similar to this. It doesn't have to have this threaded part. You can design it however you want. This just happens to be one that my grandfather has out on the farm for a few other projects that were done similarly. And then I went and I spun that in too far. And I got a sore belly today. I don't remember if I mentioned that or not. Not even a week ago yet, I had a surgery to remove my gallbladder because it decided to throw a little hissy fit in there, give me loads of trouble. So anyway, once I get this set up and in place, I'll show you what's going on here to pull this off. Okay, so now you see what I have set up here to pull this off. And like I had mentioned, I got a pretty sore belly, so this might not quite go nearly as well as I would like. Because of the sore belly, I'm on a lifting restriction, and I probably shouldn't be out in the garage, but as we all know, life goes on. I'm going to figure out a way to hold that because I don't want to strain myself too bad doing that. Well, we're going to try this with this wrench and see how it works here. I got a fair amount of pressure on it now. And it's probably not okay, so I got the other one off, and I'm putting a replacement one on now. And on the replacement one here, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a notch here. It's a little arrow, and then on the end of the crank there's another little arrow. These two should line up. I've heard occasionally of them having to be 180 from each other to balance this, but most of the time I think they're supposed to be lined up. At least that's what the manual says, is to line them things up. So that's what I'm working on now, is getting this put into place, and it is pressed on. So maybe we're going to have a little bit of a bugger here. Because I got to get a little farther, and it sounds like it's sleeting out, of all things. And it never ends. just kind of lightly tap on that with a smaller hammer, and this wonderful bolt here should slide right on. I'm going to take the lock washer out of there. We don't need to crush that. And that way we got more threads to play with. And there we go. And the hard part of this is I'm hoping this will go on without too much of a issue, just tightening it up here gently, because like you see there, the crankshaft wants to turn. So I got all the clutch parts in here. You'll have to go off your manual. Should be fairly straightforward. If you took everything apart, put it back in the same way it came out, in the same order going in. Try and keep your discs in the right place, especially if they're already worn discs. It might just save you a headache down the road. There's no guarantee on that, because if you've been in an old tractor like this one for a little while, you ought to know by now nothing goes easy. So what we're going to start with here is, for whatever reason the previous owner used these here. I don't think my clutch discs are really that wore. I'm thinking that it's more so a case of these studs might be stretched, but they added an extra nut here, and that seemed to be working, so that's what I'm gonna go with.